In this video, I'm going to give you my final thoughts on the 5D Mark IV and whether this is a camera that you should go out and buy. So like a whole bunch of other Canon shooters, I've been waiting for the 5D Mark IV for a very long time. I shoot with the Canon 5D Mark III, and I was really looking forward to this particular upgrade. So I'm not going to rattle off all of the different specs of the 5D Mark IV. You can find that on pretty much every other YouTube channel. I highly recommend Tony Northrup's channel. He goes through all the specs really thoroughly, and he does all the scientific testing. I'm too lazy to do that, but if you're interested in that, go check out his channel here. So I've shot a wedding, couple football games, and I've done some landscape photography with this camera, and I wanted to give you my thoughts on the image quality, the high ISO performance, and the overall quality of the shot of this camera. The features that I'm really appreciating right now. Let's start with the pros. I love the touchscreen. I'm starting to get used to it, and it's so much faster to go through the menus with the touchscreen. You hit the Q button, you can quickly change what setting it is you want to change. I love the pinch to zoom feature. And actually, one of the features that I didn't really think about is when you're in live view, you can tap to focus, or you can change it to where you can actually tap to take the photo. And that's actually, you end up shaking your camera a whole lot less than like pressing down the shutter button if you just tap. Another feature that I really like is the illuminated AF points when you're in AI servo. Very useful in a dark wedding reception or something to be able to see your focus points. The 5D Mark III did not have those illuminated focus points, and it was an incredibly annoying thing to not be able to see where to put your focus point. That's a very important thing, and they finally fixed that. Congrats, Canon. Good job. So the sensor quality has been upgraded dramatically. That was probably the thing I was most looking forward to. So this shot here, shot at ISO 100, and if I boost it up 4 stops and then look at the darkest part of these shadows, there's a little bit of noise there, but they're not bad. It's totally acceptable noise. If I was to do this with the 5D Mark III, it looks like this, and you're starting to get that color banding. It's really icky and terrible. Now, what this means for landscape photographers is that you're going to be able to take one shot oftentimes to deal with your dynamic range rather than having to take 2. It used to be that I would have to take my highlight shot, and then I would boost up the exposure and get some clean shadows and then blend that into my shot. Now I can just take the same raw file, process it twice, once for the highlights, once for the shadows, blend it together, and I can end up with a nice clean shot. That's really nice if there's any kind of movement in that shot, because if there's movement, blending multiple exposures is a huge headache. It's very difficult to blend when stuff is moving. So that feature is really nice. I really like the quality of the dynamic range. It looks like we're getting about maybe 1.5 stops of highlight recovery, about the same as the 5D Mark III, maybe a slight improvement there. But like I said, these are not scientific tests. This is just Nick playing with the camera and seeing what he can get out of the raw files. So high ISO performance, greatly improved. I'm very impressed with the high ISO performance in this. In fact, it's only beaten out by the Sony a7R II, I believe, as far as high ISO performance. Very happy with how images are looking at like 8,000, 10,000. It's looking nice and clean. 16,000, it's acceptable. I think we're getting about 1 stop more at least of ISO performance. The grain is finer because of the higher resolution. The grain is finer, and there seems to be a whole lot less color noise. The color noise is really what destroys an image, in my opinion. I can deal with a little bit of that grain, that luminance noise, but the color noise is really ugly. So I'm really happy with the ISO performance. But now keep in mind that, the A7R II has been out for a year now. D810's been out for more than that. And now we get this camera from Canon that is almost as good. Almost. And those other cameras, they update more often, which means that there's going to be an A7R3 coming out soon. And there's going to be a D820 coming out soon, or a D760. And those images, or those cameras, are likely going to blow this one away with image quality. And that's a bummer. That's a really big bummer, because when you buy a camera like this, it's an investment. It's not like it's toilet paper. You can't go out and buy a $3,500 camera every single year. And so why didn't Nick switch to Nikon? The biggest reason is I'm too lazy to sell all of my lenses and all of my gear. I've got so many lenses that that's a lot of work, and I'm going to end up losing a whole bunch of money by selling off all of those lenses and not getting what I paid for them. So, you know, for me, this camera is not going to hold me back. It may not be the best camera out there, but it's good enough for me. It's not going to hold me back. I'm a decent photographer, but I don't feel like I am better than this particular camera. AF system, the autofocus system, is excellent. It's really, really good. It's improved from the 5D Mark III. Very happy with how it's focusing in low light. It's really picking up focus where the 5D Mark III would not have. At wedding receptions, stuff like that, you really, really notice it. At football games, it's fast, it's snappy. So the video side, I haven't talked about too much. If you're a video shooter, don't get this camera. But if you are a still shooter that it shoots primarily photographs, but then you do a little bit of video on the side, this is going to be an excellent camera for you. And the biggest pro to the video side of this is the autofocus in video. It is amazing. It's really, really good. You tap it, you tap it, it locks on a particular subject or a face, and it just follows it. It tracks it, keeps it in focus, works well with shallow depth of field shots. And if you're somebody that's just a casual video shooter, that's going to be nice, because most likely you're not shooting, you know, on a shoulder mount with rack focus and stuff. If you're somebody that's just doing it casually on the side of your stills, this is going to be a great camera. Downside is obviously that 1.7 crop factor. It sucks. It's kind of poopy. But if you're, you know, a lot of times when we're doing video, we're going for that kind of cinematic, shallow depth of field, 50 millimeter ish shot. We're not always trying to shoot ultra wide angle video. Because of that, and for that reason, it's not a huge deal that you have that 1.7 crop factor. It's not the end of the world if you're a casual shooter. If you're a serious video shooter, you shouldn't be shooting with Canon anyways. You should be shooting with Panasonic or Sony. The Sony a7S II is an amazing camera. That's what you should be shooting for video, not the 5D Mark IV. This is for, so who is this for? This is for the portrait photographer. This is an amazing portrait camera. This is for the wedding photographer. Focuses well in low light. It's got excellent focusing system and good high ISO capabilities. It's a good all-around camera. It's a good landscape photography camera. If I was a landscape photographer only, I would definitely be looking at that A7R2. It's just really hard to beat that sensor right now. If I was a sports shooter, I probably wouldn't be shooting this because the frames per second, it's kind of slow. But if you time it right, if you pick your moments and don't just like rattle them off, you're going to be fine. I shoot football, I shoot basketball, and I can do just fine with this camera. I just pick my moments. I choose when I'm going to take a photo. So yeah, Nick isn't going to be switching to Nikon, partially out of laziness because I don't want to sell all of my gear, and partially because this camera is good enough. It's good enough for me. It's a $3,500 good enough, which is kind of a bummer, but it's good enough. It's not going to hold me back. All right, so be gentle, guys. Most of the time when I do these gear videos, I get just tore up. So be gentle in your comments. Like, subscribe, and let me know what you guys think of this camera if you own it. Like I said, I bought it. I put my money where my mouth is, or my mouth where my money is, my money where my mouth is. Anyway, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks so much.